Welcome back to Ask the Attorney. We're here with Kevin Kennedy, Kevin C. Kennedy,
Yes.
out of Clarksville. And Barbara, we were talking to her earlier about a potential medical malpractice case, and she said she had a second question here. So what's your second question, Barbara?
Okay, the second question, my daughter today got an eviction notice. All of her rent has been paid, and she's never had a lease agreement. The first homeowner that she rented from, her rent was $550 a month, which that was a lease agreement then. And then the lady who owned the house, her brother bought it, and he has verbally, every time her rent is due, he'll say, well, I'm going to have $100 extra this morning or this month.
Wow.
Or I need $200 this month. Verbally telling her he doesn't even know who her name is or the address of the house, because he had to call the next door neighbor to get the address and her name to know who's living in it. I spoke with him the first of last month and asked him if he would agree on a certain amount each month. She's a single mom with one daughter, and to agree on a certain amount. He says, well, I'm going to ask $800 this month. And I said, but she can't afford to pay $800 in this little small community and make ends meet. There's no way. He said, well, all I can tell you to do is tell her to get out. He has not spoke with her, but when he signed the papers and had them served on her today, he said he spoke with her, but it was me he spoke to.
Well, what can Barbara's daughter do about that?
First thing, you know, when you're in Tennessee Landlord Tenant Act, you can have an oral agreement. If they have a right to sell it, yes, and so they've got a new owner. Can he set the rent, whether it's reasonable, unreasonable? Absolutely. That's why it's important, if you have an oral agreement and you are the tenant, you probably should insist, can we get a year's contract? Can we get something so that we don't have this misunderstanding? You know, a good understanding keeps down a misunderstanding. And again, he says, well, okay, this month I want $700, next month I want $750. On a month-to-month lease, they can say that.
And
so
what does she do about that eviction notice?
Well, you're going to have to honor that eviction notice. He's giving it to you in Tennessee. You got 30 days. And then I don't really want to rent from somebody who's going to do this, because the next thing you're going to know, he's going to say, yes, you violated this. You tore up my bushes. You've messed up the lease. I've got to have all new carpet. I'm going to sue you for all of it. So you know it can only get worse. So I would try to see a lawyer. Once they file the eviction notice, I'd make plans to get it. I'd video that place. When I got out, take pictures, let 2 or 3 witnesses come through, because this man may sue her, and you have to spend some money to defend that lawsuit.
Yeah, good advice there. We've got Sherry here. Hi, Sherry.
Hi, how are you?
Good.
I appreciate you, Mr. Kennedy. I've called in before. I have a 2-part question.
Okay,
How
thank
do I
you.
legally leave my possessions to my best friend who lives in Ohio? And also, I've been told that in my complex, neighbors have said there's a certain person that works in the office that when they know somebody dies, they take a key and go in there and take what they want. And so how do I make sure that Donna knows what's in my apartment, what should be in my apartment in case I die?
Okay. Well, the best thing for you to do is go ahead and do a will. I like to recommend a lawyer do it. It's not that expensive, but it'll give you some peace of mind. On the will, if that's your friend, you could even tell your friend, this is where my will is. You could leave it with your friend. You have a right to revoke it at any time. And so with that will, when you passed away, they could go get your possessions and go. You can list them specifically, or you could say, I leave everything I own to my friend.
And it doesn't matter that it's a friend, family member,
That's
neighbor,
exactly
or
right.
charity, whoever it might be.
And also, you can also do part of this as an inter vivos gift. If you ever chose to say, okay, I'm going to give this diamond ring to Amy, I can give it to her now. And that's the act of giving and her having possession of it. And so that's an inter vivos gift. What you're really describing is one after your death. And so the best way is get a lawyer. You could do a holographic will. That's write it out in your hand and sign it. But, you know, there's always some complications potentially with that. So if we want to cut down all those problems, see a lawyer and do it, and that'd be your best. And you'll be happy. Your friend will be happy. And
maybe with her specifically writing down what those items are, right, she can prevent this person who apparently comes into the apartment.
Yes, 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 absolutely.
All right. I don't know if this is Tara or Terrence, but we've got a question here. Hi, Terrence.
Hey, how you doing?
Good. Great. How are you?
Okay, how y'all doing?
Wonderful.
I was looking through the channels and I just saw y'all on there, and I wanted to know some legal advice.
Okay.
I used to stay at a rooming house, and I was on the lease for maybe about like a year lease, and I was like paying like $160 a week.
Yep.
And I do construction and remodel and stuff like that. So the landlord is a female landlord. She we got together now, and I done like 2 months worth of work for her.
Okay.
And I got a regular job. I worked also, and I got tired of working for her because she wanted to come and every time she see me, she wants me to just jump up and go to work with her. And I always tell her that at a certain time I can go to work with you, but because if I get off of work early, that don't mean because you see me, I got to jump and go to work with you. Because
Right.
the plan was 4:30, either 5:30 in the evening when I got off. If I got off at 12, I would come home and get some sleep, some rest, or cook, or do whatever I want to do. So all of a sudden, I had a misunderstanding with with my ex-girlfriend, and so she stays there too. But she stayed downstairs, and I stayed upstairs. So, and I have fixed the place completely up where people can't live in it.
Right.
And so, Terrence, tell me a little bit about what your exact question is here.
My exact question that I got incarcerated and went to jail. Kind of like the best me and my ex-girlfriend got into it. She got married, and so I stayed locked up for about 2 weeks. So, but my rent was paid, so I've been getting receipts. So, but for the 2 months that I done the work, she did not give me no receipt or anything. We just agreed on it, So 2 months free rent, for the work I put into her building. So she got mad and told me to get out, this and that. So when I got out of jail, being incarcerated, she told me I could no longer be. She didn't want me there on her property.
I understand exactly what you're dealing with, and we hear this question in circumstance all the time. You swap out a little work for the landlord. She's supposed to honor it, give us some credit for our rent. Now she won't do that. So the word to the wise is you would have to prove that you did this work with witnesses, your testimony, if you had to get in front of a judge. But what you should always do is have a good understanding and put it in writing. You should say, okay, Amy, I'm going to sheetrock the bathroom for 1 month's rent. I'm going to do new floor in the bathroom for 2 months' rent. Do we agree? And we write it down for September and October of 2015. You sign it, then we've got some evidence. And guess what? When I come back, and Amy says, I'm not going to honor that. I say, I've got it in writing, Amy. That satisfies the statute of frauds. So you can try, but we'll go to court, and I've got the evidence. And then Amy can say, that's not my signature. And I'd say, well, we can get a handwriting expert, and if you get up and testify, we're going to charge you with perjury. So Amy, and then all of a sudden Amy's eyes are thinking, her mind's, she says, okay, you got 2 months, then you're going to get out. So that's where you are. A good understanding keeps down a misunderstanding. What's the best way to have a good understanding? Have it in writing.
And it doesn't have to necessarily be some long contract that's drafted by a lawyer. It can be something written down.
A yellow page, put it on there.
Yeah, what's that old case, like that first case that you learn in contracts in law school, and they write it down on just a little napkin?
Yes, yes. It kind of reminds me of that caveat emptor, let the buyer beware. So he's saying, okay, I'm going to swap with you. That's fine, but you better get it in some kind of understanding and prove it.
Yeah. All right, and we've got a couple questions now from Sue, who had some earlier, and I guess our producer Courtney's going to tell me in my ear, so go ahead. So Okay, so basically we talked about the collecting judgment issue
Yes.
and possibly garnishing wages, but I guess this person is self-employed, so what are some other methods?
One other
can
option
a
you
lien
can
on their
do.
property maybe? Or
Right, if you got a judgment, if they own property, go to the courthouse, the trustee of deeds, and file that with the Register of Deeds. Then that creates a lien on all their properties. So if they went to sell it, guess what? There's a lien that would have to be satisfied before they get clear title and can pass clear. That's one technique. A collection lawyer has many tricks up his sleeve, so let's hear what all our options are. Another one is what's known as an asset subpoena. So, okay, you say you're not working, you say you don't own any property, we're going to put you under oath. I'll issue the asset subpoena, bring you into court, the judge will swear you, and then I have a right to ask you a bunch of questions. Show me your car title. If you bring in your car title and it's paid for, hello, come in. I'm going to go right in there, execute, take the car, and satisfy that judgment.
And the other question, if I'm understanding it correctly, and Courtney may have to correct me, but it's can she petition the federal court for representation in a civil case?
You can always petition any court at any time, civil, in a state or federal court. Again, is there circumstances in which they can give you a lawyer? Absolutely. We see it
But there's
all
no
the time.
obligation with a civil
And it kind of reminds me just like this. When I make my presentation to the judge, he can say yes, he can say no, and but I always like to advance it anyway because we really don't know what he's going to think. And if a judge thought it deemed in the administration of justice, they can do it. You know, in Chancery Court, what we have a lot, they say, well, I can't afford a lawyer, and then he'll call up and say, Amy, will you serve as a guardian ad litem in this case? This is a pro bono. You don't have to do it. And lawyers a lot of times says, I'll go help.
All right. We've got Jane here who's been waiting. Hi, Jane.
Hello.
Hello. How can we help you today?
Yes, this is a landlord-tenant issue.
Okay.
It's regarding the rules and regulations of the apartment complex that I live in.
Yes.
And I'm trying to find out what the legal ramifications are regarding tenants or my neighbors who are not following the rules and regulations, such as the noise level, having a party at 3 or 4 o'clock in the morning with people all out in the breezeway. And
okay, I can address that. And you've got policy, rules, and regulations of that apartment complex. However, Tennessee state law overrides that. If they are disturbing the peace, you can call the police and say these guys are violating the noise ordinance and they're also disturbing the peace, and so the police will come up there. It usually breaks it up. They say your music's too loud, turn it down, and if somebody is belligerent, drinking, they'll say, sir, have you been drinking? We're going to take you in for public intoxication. So you can always tell the management of the apartment complex these issues. If they don't act on it, no one stops you from calling the police.
All right. Well, we're going to take a quick break, but please keep those questions coming at 737-plus, 737-7587, and we'll be back with Kevin Kennedy after a short break.